Hey everyone, it's Peter from Rock Daydream Nation, and today I've got one of the superstar legends of rock, Carmine Appice. How are you, mate?
I'm very good. I'm very good, actually. I'm sitting home in my house doing interviews and to go after my Cactus show, my Cactus video we just did.
I do want to congratulate you on the Temple of Blues 2 album that
Thank
came
you.
out in April. It's an absolute corker of an album. This album had an all-star cast: Ted Nugent, Billy Sheehan, Dee Snider, Pat Travers, etc., etc. Was it easy assembling this cast for the album?
Well, they always take it always takes about 6 months to do it
Yep.
because everybody's doing different things. But luckily, most people have a studio in their house, like I do now. you know. So I do all my drums from my house in a little studio I put together. And, it's just like I have a spreadsheet of songs, I have a spreadsheet of musicians, you know, and then I call up different people and guys say, yeah, I want to do it. Then I put them on the okay list. Then once I come up with the okay list, then I try and match up, who's going to be on what song. Some
Yeah.
people on two songs, like Tony Franklin's on two songs, you know. And this people that were on the last album that did well, we broke in this one and the last one broke into blues charts on Billboard like number three, and
Mm.
uh, and basically I would call them guys first, and say, "Would you want to play?" And yeah, sure, let's do it. Like Ted Nugent, Tony Franklin, Dee Snider, they really loved the Cactus. The idea was to get people who were influenced by Cactus, you know. That was the
Mm.
idea. So. Doing this one, the label said, let's do another one, but let's not do so many because then we got to put it on a double LP and it's very expensive where to get an extra song or two. So let's try and keep it on like 10 songs and make 11 song the one that goes on the CD, you know.
Yeah.
And actually my singer from this rock show is on Feel So Good. He's the one singing that song, you
Good.
know.
Good.
He's in the video too.
Yeah, yeah. Were there any performances on the album that actually surprised you? Like you're thinking, "Wow, I thought it would be good, but not that good."
Yeah, yeah. It was with the video Backdoor Man, when I gave it to Eric, you know, I gave him to Eric, and he played the first part of the song. He didn't play the up tempo part, and I did that. I wanted to hear him. I wanted to hear him rock, you know. And he
Mm.
sent it back to me without the guitar. I said, "No, no. Why didn't you play the up tempo part?" He said, "Well, I thought that was for the drums." I said, "No, that's for you." You know. So we did him, and then I sent the track to Billy. And Billy's unbelievable. So when he sent his back, I was really blown away because in the 6/8 part, the beginning part, he was playing some of the solo with Eric. I said, "Wow, that's unbelievable." So that was one that was amazing, and the other one was there was a few one of them, but the other one heavily was the one with Purple Haze with Melanie. You know,
Y- Yeah.
I I didn't expect her to sing like that. So when they sent the vocal first, and we built everything around the vocal.
Mm.
And that vocal just floored me when she did some of those screams on there. She sounded like Janis Joplin, you
Yeah.
know? And I said, who would think that she would sound like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I reckon Dee Snider, Little Red Rooster, that blew me away. That shows a
Well, I
whole
mean,
different side to his vocals, you know?
yeah, but he sang on the last album. He did Evil.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
knew he could sing like that. That's why I called him because I know him from Long
Yeah.
Island, you know, and I know he was a Cactus fan. And, he sang a lot like a singer from Cactus. He was actually better. And I knew he'd be able to sing these kind of songs, you know.
Mm.
But did you see that video?
Yeah, I think I did. I think I did see that
That's where
video.
he's driving in the old car and
Yep.
and the rooster turned into a beautiful woman. And then at the end turned back into a rooster, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun doing these videos. Like this new video, this one you're gonna blow your mind when you see it. It's like a movie,
Like a
you
little
know.
mini movie. Yeah.
That
Um,
is.
do you miss the days where everybody could be in the one studio? Because, like, post COVID or even just before that, everyone can be
Before
around the
that,
world and sort
it
of
was
assemble
before
their
that.
parts. Yeah.
Did that on my Guitar Zeus records. I don't know if you know what those were. I used to travel with a 24 track machine tape in my bag. And I'd go to different places where the guitar players were. And man, that got so expensive. That was the days when you had budgets of $250,000. You could do that then. And now
Mm,
today, with the price of flights and they charge you for excess baggage, $90 for one bag, it's
yeah.
ridiculous. You couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So doing it this way is fantastic
Yeah.
because for me, drums, I can fix whatever I want in my own studio.
Mm,
And everybody else, they send us three, like Ted Nugent always sends three guitar tracks, and we could do it. I mean, we do that anyway when we go, if I went to the studio with him, you know, and it's a lot easier this way, actually, believe it or
mm,
not, because we'd have to go in and rehearse
mm,
with everybody.
mm.
And it's a lot easier just to send them the track. They're in their own studio. They listen to it. They do what they want. Once they get it to where they want it, then they send it to us. You know,
Yeah.
it's really a
Yeah.
lot easier. I
Yeah.
find it better. Better. You get better performances because you're not on a time clock. You're in the studio. Go, "Oh, come on, hurry up! We've been in here 6 hours already. It's $200 an hour." You know,
Yeah.
and they
Absolutely.
go, I said, when do you think you can do it? I can do it next week. Okay, we'll send you the digitally. It doesn't cost nothing.
Yeah.
We'll send it
Yeah.
to you by WeTransfer
Yeah.
or Google Drive or whatever, however you want to do it. And then
Yeah.
they take the time on their own time. There's no
Mm,
rush, and they get it to the point where they really sound good.
mm. Going back in time, do you actually remember the first time as a young bloke that you were in a studio? Do you remember your
I don't.
very first session in a
I
studio?
don't.
You
I
don't?
don't. No,
Yeah.
because it wasn't really a
Memorable?
studio.
Yeah.
No, we just went in with my one of my bands and we just set up and they put some mics up and they recorded us. I don't even remember what they did. I think
Yeah.
it was something like "You Really Got Me" or something stupid like that, you
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
the first time we went in the studio with Vanilla Fudge, one take mono was "You Keep Hanging On."
Yes.
7 minutes to change my life.
Rest is history.
I remember that.
Yeah. So just one take and it was,
One take, everything.
yep, no
That's why
overdub.
it's mono.
Yep. What were your biggest influences as a drummer before you became an influence yourself?
Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, Max Roach, Joe Morello. Those are my big four. Mostly Krupa and Rich. And number one was Krupa. I mean, people ask me now, they go, "Wow, what was your first album you ever bought?" And expect me to think, like the Beatles album, you know? Like a
Yeah.
lot of musicians bought Beatles album. I thought Beatles sucked when they came out, like a teeny bopper
Yep.
songs that, I didn't understand songs at that time because I was playing. We never wrote songs in those times. We played songs. We played mostly R&B and soul songs. James
Mm,
Brown, Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, all those kind of songs. The Miracles, you know. And I used to
mm,
sing soul songs like doo-wop, in New York, you know. And it was, so when the Beatles came out, we used to wear Beatle wigs at gigs and make fun of their songs, do dirty versions of their songs,
mm,
and then we got together with Vanilla Fudge, and then they started becoming cool, the Beatles, with like Day Tripper. That
mm.
was very cool. And then when we doing the first album, arranging it, we listened to Revolver.
Eleanor Rigby. You did Eleanor Rigby, didn't you?
Yes, smoking pot, listening to Revolver. Eleanor Rigby got the ideas of crazy psychedelic, music, and then we played. We stayed in the house all together for a month. We were doing a gig. We played 4 sets at night, and then when we had days off and during the day, we would arrange stuff, get songs and arrange them and get really excited about them, and try them out at night at the gigs. And wherever we played, with all the songs we arranged, the whole first album, every time we did You Keep Me Hanging On, people stopped trying to dance to our music and came up and watched us play that song. So we knew that
Yeah.
song had some magic, you know.
Did, and that was
And
your,
we
your
do that.
you did.
We did it with Rod Stewart too on the first album, and we do it in my Rod show now. Except we
Yeah,
take it to the next level, you know,
yeah. Why do you think those slow, dramatic arrangements connected so strongly with the audience?
because when the Supremes did, it was like "Set Me Free, Why Don't You, Babe?" It was like a happy song, but it wasn't a happy song lyrically,
Yeah.
you know. So when we slowed it down and put the drama into it, we put the feeling of what the song is like. Eleanor Rigby, Eleanor Rigby, they did it really amazing, but we took the mood of the song lyric and put it into a mood musically,
Mm.
eerie and cemetery and churchy and
Dark, very dark.
gothic and dark.
Yeah.
And that's what we did to all that song. We took lyrics, people get ready. We took that song and made it a churchy ballad and gospel kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you think you were creating something revolutionary at the time?
No,
No. You
we
just
were
do it.
just doing what
You're just
we
doing
were
it.
doing what was going on in Long Island where we were based out
Mm.
of. And also we're and there was Billy Joel was in a group called the Hassles. Leslie West was in a group called the Vagrants, and us. We were the first one to break out and make it out of that thing because we had great musicians and four-part harmony, really good vocals. And we were just doing what was happening there. We wanted a following around Long Island like everybody else was doing.
Mm.
The Vagrants had a big following. They would pack out all the places they would play, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and started from the Rascals, actually, you know. It was all New York scene. But we didn't know that. We just knew we had something. Would you keep hanging on? And when we did the demo, they started playing the demo on radio in New York, and they do like what would you call it? Where they put up like the Beatles song, and then you put up our song, and then the people would call in which song they liked the best, and we'd always keep winning, and that's how we got signed. Atlantic Records heard it on the radio, and they signed us.
Yeah,
They didn't
absolutely.
like the name. We were the Pigeons at the time, you know,
I think
and
Vanilla Fudge is better.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's
I
what
know
they wanted a band name. So some girl said, "You would like White Soul, Vanilla Fudge." I said, "Wow, that's a cool name." At
yeah,
that time, there was the Strawberry Alarm Clock and all
yeah.
these weird names for bands. So Vanilla
Very,
Fudge, why
very
not?
psychedelic. Hey, a lot of people think that you, Vanilla Fudge, created 70s hard rock or heavy metal. What do you say to that?
I don't think we created heavy metal. I think Metallica created heavy metal with their big albums.
Mm.
I don't think all this stuff. I thought we played heavy. We created heavy, okay? But Black Sabbath wasn't heavy metal when it came out. It was just hard rock, okay? And then all that stuff became heavy hard rock,
Mm.
right? That's how I see it.
Yeah,
Cactus was heavy hard rock.
mm.
BBA was heavy hard rock. You know, what's the name of that? In the 60s was a group. I can't remember their name. Blue Cheer. They were as heavy as anybody. They
Yeah,
used to play with 6 Marshall amplifiers. You know, Jimi Hendrix wasn't heavy. He was bluesy, heavy, hard rock, you
yeah.
know. But think about it. Metallica created something new that was really heavy, that buzzsaw guitar sound. And the thing that made it different was the drums followed the guitar. and all the other stuff, the drums followed the bass. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
my theory, and I lived through it.
Yeah. Well, you
I
absolutely
was
did.
always there. I started power drumming. I started big power drumming.
Mm,
And if you saw by my email, it's power, and then there's drums in there. You
yeah.
know, and
For
that's what
sure.
I created. Like everybody's just tap the drums. You look at Ginger Baker, he tapped the drums.
Mm,
You look at Keith Moon, he played weird, but he just tapped the drums. He didn't like aggressively kill the drums. And
mm,
then I got the big drums, which I got for John Bonham. And then John Bonham, he wasn't heavy metal. He loved Gene Krupa too. He loved Buddy Rich. He loved all the guys I did, except he loved me. You know, and I was me, and he liked all the guys I liked and followed after me. You know, so it's just goes down the line. But like Black Sabbath wasn't heavy metal until later when they really
yeah.
started tuning down the guitars, I guess. I always looked at Black Sabbath wanted to be Led Zeppelin, you know.
Mm, yeah. But there's so many bands in the 70s that I can really see that were influenced directly by Vanilla Fudge, like Deep
Oh
Purple,
yeah.
Queen with the harmonies, Uriah Heep, just to name a few.
And Styx, the,
Yeah.
the the first guy, which is his name, the owner of Styx, the guy that created Styx. Yeah, I knew him. He thanked me for Vanilla Fudge. You
Yeah.
know why? He goes, because we loved you.
Mm,
There's so many bands that started with, and then same with Cactus. I mean,
mm,
Cactus was influenced by. I mean, Cactus influenced everybody like Van Halen. And that whole crew of that kind of thing.
yeah.
Steve Stevens was influenced by Cactus. All the guys that played on our records, Joe Bonamassa was influenced by Cactus. We were like Parchment Farm was like the predecessor to speed metal, you
Yeah.
know, so
For sure.
fast, you
But
know.
do you think those two bands, Vanilla Fudge and Cactus, got the credit they deserve? Like, I mean, Rock and Roll
No,
Hall of Fame. You
no,
guys, I mean, why isn't Vanilla Fudge in the list?
exactly. We should have been in there at the beginning of it, you know, but we're not in there. It's all about politics. Then they started
Mm,
getting into the Hall of Fame and instead of like who influenced everybody,
yes.
who sold them the most records, you know? That's what they put in there now. And
Well, I
then they
think
started putting in Madonna. I mean, not Madonna.
Madonna was in there, but
No, no, not
yeah,
Madonna, not Madonna. The other one, the black
Cher.
chick,
Oh,
the black one.
I
I
know. I'm
forgot.
getting. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton.
Yeah, it's
You
become a
know,
bit broad. It's like the
it's
Pop Hall of
ridiculous.
Fame, isn't it?
They should call it the Music Hall of Fame.
Mm,
Then you could put anybody in there. We're in the Music Hall of Fame in Long Island. They got everybody in there. They got Frank Sinatra. They got, you know, everybody. That's what they should do, you know. Uh, but anyway, we should have been there, and Cactus should have been in there too.
yeah,
We influenced so many bands. We influenced so much of the business that we got no credit, you know.
yeah. Do you feel like Cactus was a fresh start, or was it unfinished business?
It was a fresh start because we wanted to play music that rocked with guitars. And it was supposed to be Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart was in that band. But then it didn't work. Jeff didn't want to work. Rod didn't want to work with Jeff because they had falling outs all the time. And I got them back together. Matter of fact, in Australia, when we were there with Rod, we were in the same hotel. And then Jeff came to the gig the next day at the 8,000 seater. We did, I think, 6 nights at the 6,000 seater, and then we played the
Mm,
stadium. And
mm,
that was 79 when Do You Think I'm Sexy was number one everywhere, you
mm,
know. And he was in the same hotel. And I went and visited him. And I said, Jeff, what are you doing? Well, we hung out. He said, would you come to the gig tomorrow? I go, no, Rod wouldn't want me to come. I said, yeah, he would. He said, I told Rod, Jeff's here. It's cool if he comes tomorrow. I go, yeah. So they came in the dressing room. They became friends again. Then a couple of years later, we're doing People Get Ready, you know.
So you're a peace broker, mate.
Yeah, even it got even worse. Jeff stayed at my house I was getting divorced. He is getting broke up with his girlfriend. And he saying came to LA. I said, stay with me. He stood with me. We went out and partied all the time. And then said, let's do some music. So we went to my buddy Dwayne Hitchings' house at Cove Road Sexy in Young Turks. He had a little studio, and we started doing this music, and it turned out to be it sounded like People Get Ready. That riff did or do do. That was Dwayne's riff. And Jeff said, "Man, that sounds like People Get Ready." And I said, "You're right." And I started singing it because I sang it with Vanilla Fudge. And he said, you think we can get Rod on it?" So I called Rod, found out where he was. He was at a restaurant. We went down there with a cassette, played for Rod. A week later, we're in the studio, you know. So if he never came to my house, it never would have been People Get Ready.
Yeah.
It's
With
just the way things work out.
It's a one of the great songs.
Yeah, it's always a good song.
Beck, Bogert, and Appice. What surprised you most about working with Jack Beck on that album?
What's the what?
What surprised you most about working with Jack Beck
Oh,
and
surprise me.
on that album?
I don't know. Just the fact that Stevie Wonder released Superstition before we did, because it was written for Jeff. There was a demo that Jeff had, and he wasn't supposed to do anything with it. And when it came out, it went to number one, and Oz came out a couple of months later. Oz was like a cover, but it wasn't a cover. It was written for Jeff, and we rearranged it to make it more rock. You know,
Mm,
so I guess that was it, and the fact that also that when we mixed it, Jeff had the bass and drums really loud because he loved the way we played, and
mm,
the guitar wasn't as loud as it should be. That's what I felt, and Tim
yeah.
felt it too. And we said to Jeff, "Why is that? Why did you mix it like that?" He said, "Because I love the way you guys play. I'm sick of myself, kind of thing." You know, Jeff was a unique person.
Was he hypercritical of himself? Did he used
Yes.
to mark himself down?
Well, not knock himself down, but everything had to be perfect. That's why the second album never came out. You
Right.
know, because he was, I don't know, maybe he was worried about it not being as good as the first. And he was right in a certain way. And then we released a box set recently that had all the second album done live, which audience loved. And
Mm,
and the bridge that went from Blow by Blow, BBA to Blow by Blow was a song called Jizz Whiz and Solid Lifter. Those two songs were like the bridge that went into instrumental jazz rock, which I was on Blow by Blow at the beginning for 5 tracks, and we couldn't work it out, because at the time his manager wanted him to be just a Jeff Beck album rather than BBA or Jeff Beck group, just a Jeff Beck album. And I took him in that direction because me and him I listened to and turned him on to the BBA and to the like Billy Cobham, Mahavishnu Orchestra and all that stuff. And then I said, man, we should be doing this kind of stuff. And that's why we did Jizz Whiz, which was never on a record, but we played it live, you know. And it didn't work out. No, I was mad at the time because at the time, it went to sold 2 million albums it sold. And I was mad. I said, well, I should have been on that record. And he'd come and play in LA and I'd go see him. We were friends. But then I realized that if I was on that record, I never would have been playing with Rod because I would have been with Jeff,
yeah,
right? At the time he was touring on that record, that's when Rod was looking for the drummer that I became. And as far as I'm concerned, playing with Rod exploded my career again.
it did. It did.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was Jeff, it was Rod, and then there was me
Yeah.
that people knew. And I
You-
then I wrote songs. It was huge for me.
yeah.
And here I am again doing the Rod show, doing well you know, around the USA. We play in front of a theater, 1,000 people,
Mm,
900 people, and for now over here, that's great.
yeah. And they go to the show and they see you and they go,
They go to the
wow.
show and see me, and they see
Yep.
catcher who played with Rod 14 years. I
Mm.
always say on the stage together we have 21 years of Rod Stewart on the stage now,
Yeah.
because she worked every time back in the day to, before he had this whole show with all the girls and the videos
Mm,
and all that.
mm, mm.
The only girl on the stage was Catra.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a blonde sax player on stage with Rod years ago. That was her, and she was great. So
Mm,
we feature her as me. I got a solo. She has solos. Rob, my singer, works with her. Like when they do "You're in My Heart," he kneels down and she sits on one of his legs, right up to him. It's like it's really, you know, corky, as we would say. Yeah.
when you joined Rod's band in '77, what was the biggest adjustment for you? Um, you know, from a drumming
Wasn't There
perspective,
wasn't there
no,
wasn't.
no adjustment.
He said to me, "Play like you did in Cactus," because we toured with Cactus with Rod and the Faces for 30 days. We did
Mm,
about 30 shows. I don't know how long that was, maybe 6 weeks. And we became real good friends. And he watched us play every day. He loved Cactus, you know. And he said to me, matter of fact, when I called him up, my friend Sandy Gennaro gave me the phone number, and I called him, and he said he wasn't there. But Pete Buckland was the tour manager that I knew from the tour. We used to wreck cars together, wreck
mm,
hotel
mm.
rooms, wreck women. We just had a great time. And and I called him and he said, "Well, Rod's in England. Let me call him." So he called Rod, and Rob said, they're at my house, the band that we have now. Have Carmine go see if he likes it. So it was a switch.
Mm.
So I went there and I liked the band. I knew Jim Cregan and I knew Phil Chen from playing on the Blow by Blow record, you know. So I went there and I bought, I always was into cars. At the time, I had a few cars. I had a Pantera, which was a sports car, looked like a Lamborghini. And I said, well, let me take my good car up there. I knew Rod loved cars. So I took it up and I pulled up to the gates of his house. It was so big. I said, my God, I didn't know Rod made this kind of money. It was like a mansion. And then I pulled up and there was Lamborghinis and Porsches and all kinds of Mercedes in the driveway. And I saw the guys. I played with them and I liked it. So Rod was coming back in 2 days. So he came back and went up again. And we had to play. And then Rod said to me, look, you got it if you want it. I said, yeah, I want it. He said, just play like you play with Cactus. I said, no
Yeah.
problem. Look at Hot Legs. I mean, there's drums all over that thing. Born Loose, there's drums all over that. You know, some of the greatest stuff on that first album. You're Insane. Great drum part, big drums, unique drums. I was featured, like I was, the drums and Rod's voice was the feature, you
Yeah.
know. And
And
there's a great song called Attract This Female Wanted. What a great song. I got to mix up rock and reggae, before the Police, because
yeah.
Phil Chen, when I was doing the Jeff Beck album, was showing me how to play reggae, and I didn't know reggae. It was never big here in America, you
Mm,
know. And then when we did that, I said, wow, how cool. I did some really interesting drum parts with Rod, you know, and it made it good. The band was great. We were, talked about as the second, tied with the Rolling Stone about being a great band because it was a band, it wasn't Rod Stewart. It was Rod Stewart, but we were the Rod Stewart group, you
yeah.
know?
Well, you're a big part of it because I have to admit, when you see
Yeah.
the video clip, my eyes are on Rod, but they're also on you because you're doing all
Yeah.
this crazy shit with the
Oh, that was
sticks
stick
and the
twirling. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's my thing.
yeah,
And I mean, I had a funny story. I had John Bonham open up for us with Zeppelin, right? And I used to stick twirl and grab my stick and my
yeah,
cymbal with Vanilla Fudge. If you look at the Ed Sullivan show, that's what I
yep,
do.
yep, yep.
So I was with Ozzy, Motley Crue opened up for us. And I
Mm,
see Tommy Lee doing that.
yes,
And I said, hey, dude, where'd you get that? He goes, I got it from John Bonham. I said, get it. Yeah, actually, you got it from me. It's John got it from me. He said, no way, dude, And that's what before they had all the money and the fame. I used to hang out with Tommy and his two movie star wives. And so I said, hey, when you're done, come over to my house. I want to show you something. So he comes over, had a pretty big 4,000 square foot house at the time with some gates and shit. So he comes over and he looks at it and he goes, dude, I can't believe I played him the Ed Sullivan Show. I said, dude, I can't believe John Bonham got that from you. I said, yeah, we took him on the first tour. Then I showed him the second time. The second time I had my big drums same thing I got for John, you know? And then at the end of the shotgun, it was the same thing as the end of rock and roll. I said, do this, dig this. I said, does this sound familiar? He goes, that's the end of rock and roll. I said, thank you. I said, this is done like 5 years before rock and roll. So after that, he was like, then he used to say I was influenced by him. I'm sorry, he was influenced by me. Sorry about that.
Well, I think half of the heavy metal drummers in the '80s got it from you anyway. Not
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
just
mean, I had the gong first.
how many bands had the gong because of you?
I had the gong. I wasn't as
Yeah,
big. When 73, I had a big gong, but
yeah,
it was not on the big stand. John Bonham got the big stand first because he lived in Europe.
mm,
I was getting all my stuff from Switzerland. So I had to
mm,
wait for them to get it to America. But I had the big gong behind me from 1967. I had the little gong behind me when I was a Vanilla Fudge. It was a small one on a little shelf that I had. I saw the gong. I don't think it was
yeah,
even my gong, but I think that's where I got the idea, you know.
yeah.
Then I got a gong from when I got my deal with Ludwig. I came with Pacey cymbals. I said, "Can you give me a gong?" And they gave me a smaller gong. And then the big stand came out. I said, "Could I have a bigger gong?" They said, "Yeah." And while they were giving me my bigger gong, John Bonham got a 48-inch gong, and I had a 52-inch gong, you know. And then everybody got a gong, you know.
So
John had
you're
the gong, and Queen had the gong, and BBA had the gong, and this one had the gong. It was, I said,
well,
wow,
you had the biggest gong of all though.
I had the biggest gong of all. Maybe Roger from Queen had the same size, you know. But I
Yeah,
had the first gong. I had the first big drum set, you know. I had the first twirls and the power, you know,
yeah.
which is great. You know, I'm happy I had it all. I don't, it sounds like I'm bragging. I'm just telling the truth, you know. I'm not bragging about it. You
Just
know?
being factual.
I mean, there were times I couldn't even say that I influenced John Bonham because people go, no way, dude, you know, because John was such a
Mm,
god. And then Chris Welch wrote a book called The Thunder of Drums, where he interviewed John when he first came back from America, and how John was raving about me and raving about my drum set and raving about the gong and raving about all that stuff with Cozy Powell. And Cozy was another Carmine double. You know, he got the big drums. And I used to bust Cozy's balls because when Jeff Beck couldn't get me, he got Cozy. And Rainbow
mm,
asked me to join the band. I couldn't do it. He got Cozy. So I used to say, hey, are you my professional replacement? You know, but
yeah,
God bless him. I love Cozy. I love John. We were all good friends, you know. And I mean, when Zeppelin came to town playing arenas, I used to sit anywhere I wanted on the stage behind John, on the other side of the stage, never in the audience, you know. And
yeah,
yeah, I saw Cozy with Jeff. And then when Jeff got rid of Cozy, they got me and Tim, you know.
yeah.
So it was a close knit, all the musicians was close knit, especially the English ones. Vanilla Fudge created such like Richie Blackmore said, he wanted Deep Purple to be English Vanilla Fudge, you know.
Well, listen
He
to
said
those
that.
first three albums. They're all it's
Yes.
vanilla fudge,
Yeah.
isn't it? Those first
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
albums.
Totally. So, you know, I'm happy we created something, whether we're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or not. We know what we created, and the guys that influenced know. So that's fine, you know.
Well, I guess the old saying, if you know, you know. And I think,
Yeah,
there's a
you
lot
know,
of
you
fans
know.
out there, they know. Hey, I've got to
Yeah.
ask you about Ozzy Osbourne. What was that like playing on that tour in '83? Was that just
Well,
Like,
it was good in Europe. It was great in Europe. When it came to America, it wasn't great because Sharon was looking to fire me, you
yeah.
know, and she did fire me. As I was doing, I always did these things for UNICEF, that, and I was doing these master classes in every market that we played. And I
Mm,
get the sound check. They would pick me up. I go to a store. I forgot that. I think it was 30 people there, and I would teach them. And I come
mm,
back to the store, and I used to make big money doing that. And she didn't like that, number one. And I give some of the money to UNICEF, and and she just didn't like it. And I was getting because I did that. Look, first of all, I had my own PR person. I had my own merch. She signed the contract saying I could do that,
mm,
and then she didn't like it. So she fired me and said, you should start your own band, which I did, King Cobra. But I didn't want to do that. I want to stay with Ozzy and do what I did with Rod, help write
mm,
the songs, you know,
yeah,
create the killer drum sounds and that kick ass, that kick him in the ass. I didn't want to leave. And
yeah.
then when I was doing King Cobra, I was painting. I bought vehicles. I was painting one of them. One of my roadies was a painter, and I was up putting brown paper on the window. And Ozzy came up to me and said, "Hey, I know you're having problems with my missus, but I hope we can be friends." I said, "Ozzy, I know it ain't you, man. You know." So we were friends, even when she fired me, you know. But I haven't talked to her since. And then she became the big star, you know. And
Mm.
I thought that show, The Osbournes, made Ozzy look so stupid, you know.
You think that was bad for him in the scheme of
Well,
things?
obviously, it wasn't bad for the whole
Mm,
family. They all
yeah,
became stars, but as a person, I wouldn't want to be on a TV show and look that stupid, you
yeah.
know. And I said to one of his roadies that was working with him at the time, I said, "Don't you think Ozzy looks stupid doing that?" He said, "Yeah, he does look stupid. But when did
Mm,
he care about anything?
yeah,
Because you know, he
yeah,
was Ozzy, you know." But I loved Ozzy.
yeah.
We
But
when we
playing all that,
I did the album. I helped him finish the album on
the
the
bark
Bark
at
at
the
the Moon
moon, bark
in
at
New
the moon.
York. And then me and him were together for like a month, just me and him and the engineer. I had to
Yeah.
do vocals with him. Me and the engineer fixed the Tommy, all the drum sound that wasn't good at the time, you know. And that's why they fired Tommy and got me. They said, "We want you to go finish the album, fix the drum sound." I said, "Okay." I worked with that. I finished the album, with Tony Bon Jovi, John Bon Jovi's cousin. I worked with him
Yep.
before with Vanilla Fudge, and and then me and Ozzy flew on the SST to London, and we did the Bark at the Moon album. And then we did the European tour. It was great. What a band. I mean, Don Aries sent me a text the other day. He said, I just saw the show that we did in Europe at Dortmund, I think it was, Dortmund Festival. He said, me, you, Jakey Lee, Bob Daisley, Ozzy, what a fucking band. He said, what a great band.
Yeah. What was your first impression of Jake E. Lee? Were you knocked out?
I knew Jake from LA.
Yeah.
He was always a great player. He played different with the finger holding it like this
Yeah.
instead of that. I knew him. He was great. So
Mm,
when I said, "Oh, Jake's in the band," great. That'd be great. Bob Daisley, I knew. Don Airey, I didn't know yet. And
hmm.
Ozzy, I didn't know. I knew Ozzy. What am I talking about? I knew Ozzy from Black Sabbath days, Blackness and Cactus together. So was that a heavy metal show?
Yes.
It was a
Well,
heavy hard rock show, you know? That's what I
mm,
mean. It's all the labels got all weirded out, you know.
I've got to talk about Blue Murder because on my channel, talking about John Sykes and Blue Murder, it's the band that keeps on keeping on. People just love that album. Why do you think that album just keeps on going?
It was a great album. It was a fucking great record. I would
Mm,
have bet you my house that was going to be a huge record. It's a good thing I didn't. So amazing. I went after that band. Again, there it is. Cozy was in that band. I said, that's fucking Cozy. He gets all these gigs, you know?
yeah.
I kept my eye on it, and then Cozy was gone, and Ray Gillen was gone. And I said, I want to be in that band. I love John Sykes. I love Tony Franklin. Still to this day, they're two of my favorite guys to work with. musically, were amazing. You
Yeah.
know, and I went to England with my brother Vinny when he was in Dio. They played 4 nights in London. I said, somebody's going to know how to get a hold of John Sykes. He didn't leave in LA yet, you know.
Mm.
And I went and again, Chris Welch from Melody Maker knew how to do it. He gave me the number. I called. It was John Sykes' stepdad was one of the managers. That's where we went wrong, you know. And I went. I drove 3 hours to Blackpool. I was listening to one CD, one tape. It was a cassette all the way, a Permanent Vacation by Aerosmith, the whole way, 3 hours. You know, I was
Mm.
kept going over and over. And then when I got there, Tony met me. He busted into the bar. He was a drinker, an alcoholic, a druggie at that time. And I had a drink. The next day, we went to John's house, smoked some hash. I jammed on Cozy Powell's drums, right? I just can't get rid of this guy, you know? And and John said to me, "Oh my God!" He goes, "Cozy has like 4 drum fills. They're all the same for all the songs." He said, "You got so many drum fills. It's unbelievable." I said, "Yeah, because I study drums, man. I know,
Mm. Mm.
I know musically what I'm doing. I know I could see the notes when I do something, you know." So he said, "Man, you want it? You got it." I said, "I want it." So we did it. And then we
Yeah.
had Tony Martin was going to sing. And then when he didn't go, we went up to Vancouver, recorded all the tracks. Then we came back, and then Bob Rock recorded that big Motley Crue record. And he used my tracks. I'm sure he used tracks, my samples from the drum sound we got because we got an unbelievable drum sound up there on that record.
Right.
You know?
Dr. Feelgood. Is that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
album? Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Because we left, they went in, and Bob had my drum sound.
Yeah.
And I used all my old drums. I had all these old Ludwigs and all these drums that sounded fantastic.
It's a
But
huge sound on that album.
yeah,
It's
so
gigantor.
then we came and we did the Blue Murder thing, and we didn't have to write managers. Everything was set up. I think it was the managers' fault. They
Think
didn't know what they were doing.
Do you think Geffen might have sabotaged it? There's a lot of rumors.
That's what John says.
There's a lot of rumors
That's
that
what John
they.
says. I don't
Yeah.
I don't know about that
Yeah.
because we controlled it. We had a strong manager. They would said, no, we don't want Valley of the Kings to be on heavy rotation on MTV.
Mm.
We'll let this do its thing, and then we'll release the big one, Jelly Roll. Then we go into heavy. But didn't listen. You know,
Mm.
there was nobody to tell us that.
Yep.
After the fact, we looked at it and said we did it wrong. You know, and then when it failed, I mean, we went to Japan. We had 12,000 people in Japan. It was huge in Japan because we were there when Burn magazine said the trios of all time, the Cream, Jimi Hendrix, BBA, and Blue Murder. I was in 2 of them, right? We were huge there. And
Mm.
then when we came back, grunge hit. There was the end of Blue Murder. John went into depression, and I just saw a whole thing on the internet about John, a bio documentary about John. Some things I didn't know. I didn't know anything about that Thin Lizzy, Tigers of Panzan thing. I knew nothing about that.
Mm.
John used to tell me, it was just a big band. It was great. It was a really good band. He changed that band. And, when we couldn't find a singer, what happened here? When we couldn't find a singer, hold on. Why did I go? There it is.
Yeah,
We couldn't
that's
find
right.
a singer. Me and Tony said, you sing. You got the
Yep.
demos. You sing. We'll back you up. It'll be a trio. We had a keyboard player. We called it a trio with depth. It's the keyboard gave it the depth that we had. But
Yeah.
when we played live, we did 8 shows with Bon Jovi, man. And the audience was going wild over it. All the girls were going wild over it. And we were jamming. It wasn't like pop stuff like Bon Jovi. We were jamming.
It was
Everywhere we went, we were
harder edge.
jamming.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was freaking great. And I was so sad when he died because we were talking just before COVID about doing a tour,
Yep.
you know, and we had an manager to do it. Then John said, I don't want to. He fought with the manager. That's right. And then after COVID, we got together again. I'm pretty sure it was after COVID. No, it was before COVID. I'm sorry. Uh, it was 2020. And John said, but I want to call it Blue Murder, John Sykes and Blue Murder. I said, dude, people want to see Blue Murder. They don't want to see us playing Thin Lizzy or Tigers of Panzan. You know, they want to see Blue Murder. We have two albums now. They want to
Mm.
see Blue Murder. They said, well, so we didn't do it. We rehearsed at John's house. I said, Blue Murder. So he said, I said, I don't want to do that. And Tony said, I don't want to do that either. But then again, the last NAMM show I went to, I met John. He was collecting a, a heavy metal gods award for Bob Daisley. And I was kind of pissed off. I said, I was one of Bob's best friends. He said, why do you got John Sykes doing it? You know, anyway, whatever it was. Oh, don't put that on, Bob. Bob, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Bob might watch that. Yeah, I love you, Bob. Bob is my best friend. And anyway, so at that gig, he said, I'm going to do that tour. I said, Tony's going to do it with me. And I got kind of upset. I said, man, Tony, why are you doing that? And, you know, then John says, look, we'll do this tour and then I'm going to do this tour and get it out of my system. Then we'll do the Blue Murder tour. I said, okay, great. And then he introduced me to his little black drummer. He had the guy's dying to meet you. You mind talking? I said, sure. I went over. You know, I'm a nice guy with drummers and everything. You know, I like
Mm.
seeing new drummers and trying to inspire him, you know. And
Mm.
that was it. That was the last time I saw John. You
Yeah.
know, with COVID, after COVID, it was like I messed and I would talk to him on the phone once in a while. He never answered the phone a lot. And then this one time he didn't answer, he didn't answer, he didn't answer. Finally, I said, dude, are you okay? I'm worrying about you. And he called me back and said, yeah, I'm doing fine. Wasn't long
Mm.
after that, he died.
Yeah.
And I found out from Tony, Tony was, look, he knew Tony more than me, longer than me. But I was, because of me, he moved to LA down right near where I lived because we were good friends. We'd get up in the morning. I'd say, well, I'll go into John's, have a cup of tea. He had a studio, you know, it was fantastic. And then he never told me. I felt bad that he never told me. But then he died, you know, and I said, wow, you know,
Was he a perfectionist in the studio, Carmine?
yes, kind of. Not like Jeff Beck, not as bad as
Mm.
Jeff Beck, but he was good. But he loved Blue Mar. He loved the way we played together. You
Yeah.
know, he loved the way we played together. You know, live, we were freaking amazing. I had my light guy from King Cobra. We had the light guy went to Japan. We had lights.
Mm.
We had like we went out like a big band. We had two
Mm.
buses and a truck. You know, we were confident that we were going to be big, you know?
Yeah.
And especially after the reaction of the Bon Jovi gigs, it was unbelievable, you know? But
There's a lot of conjecture that because that album failed, John never recovered. He did go into a state of
he never
depression.
recovered, never recovered. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, he did nothing for a while. And, you know, Tony Franklin, you know, I think he took Tony off salary. I'm not sure about that. But then Tony had to leave to go make some money. I left. I started working with Vanilla Fudge again, you know, and I spent the whole 90s in Japan, you know, because grunge
Mm.
didn't do good for me. I did albums. I did my Guitar Zoo stuff. I played with this guy, Cha. We did Cha, Bogert, and Appice. We did Budokan, and we did 12,000 people in Tokyo, in which he would do with mostly 2,500. So we were big over there. So when I came back, you know, it was like it was the grunge was terrible, man. You know, he went out and did some Blue Murder, but it was terrible with different guys. You know, Mark Mendoza, who's great, that the guy Tommy played drum, but it wasn't me and Tony. I went and
Mm.
worked with Fudge, and that's when it started. He said, "Well, you go do that, and we're done." And then he tried to do the second album, and he had to bring me and Tony back to do the
Yeah.
second album, you know, as sidemen. But we were still Blue Murder.
Well, you
And
had
then
you had chemistry, didn't you? The
We
three of
did.
you.
It was magic.
Yeah,
It was magic. Some bands, when you get together, you have magic. Like
absolutely.
BBA had magic. Vanilla Fudge had magic. The
Yeah.
first Cactus had magic. You know,
Mm, yeah.
uh, King Cobra was a little forced. It wasn't
Mm,
magic, but it was forced.
yeah.
But
Another thing I want to ask you, did Geffen pressure Sykes to get back with Coverdale? Did you ever hear that through Sykes that
yes,
they were
yeah, but
putting
he
pressure?
wouldn't. He would no way do that. And you know what else is funny? I couldn't join Whitesnake. I couldn't join Rainbow at the time. So I was working with Mike Bloomfield, and we had a record deal. In those days, you can't jump ship.
Yep.
I met John and David at a party, and they asked me to do that big giant album.
87.
I said, I have my own snake to deal with, King Cobra, and I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. I said, why don't you get somebody like Ainsley's? Ainsley's still around.
Mm,
And they already been through Cozy and they've been through Tommy. No, they haven't been through Tommy yet. They've been through Cozy, but they were looking for that Carmine kind of cozy,
mm,
sound. And Ainsley kind of played like me too. I
mm.
don't know if I influenced Ainsley, but he was powerful and all that. But uh, so Ainsley, they got Ainsley, and I mean, I was stabbing my eyes, going, God, how did I miss out on that one? You know.
Yeah.
But life is good anyway.
Yeah. With Blue
I
Murder,
still got my hair.
you do. You do. With Blue Murder, there's rumors there were lots of vocalists before John took the role. Glenn Hughes, was he in the mix? Did he audition for
We
Blue
might have
Murder?
talked about it. We never approached
Yeah.
him.
Was it a different dynamic having a lead frontman? Do you think
Always a different dynamic with a front man. You
yeah.
know,
Do you think it would have
Rob Cottle from my rock show is the only lead singer that I know that doesn't have that lead singer attitude.
mm,
There's always an attitude that goes with being a lead singer. You
yeah.
know, And I got from the second Blue Murder album, I got Kelly Keeling from that. He was on that album. And I took him and me and Tony Franklin, we went to Japan because Blue Murder was so big in Japan that John continued as Sykes and we continued as Carmine Appice Super Sessions. And we drew lots of people there. And I met Kelly. And that's when I got my deal for Guitar Zeus. Because when Brian May was, when Freddie died, he was freaked out. He didn't know what to do. I used to see him at the shows and he'd go, man, I wish I could play again like that. We did some clinics together and I said, hey, dude, if I do this Guitar Zeus album, would you play on it? He said, yeah. And I met Ted Nugent. He said, yeah. I met the guys from King's X. I said, yeah. So I had some people I knew would play on it. So when I got the record deal, it was in Japan in the 90s. And I was trying to do a band with David Lee Roth at the time. That was ridiculous. I don't even have that. I don't talk about that much, you know. But anyway,
How was
I
it
said,
ridiculous? What it just didn't,
he was, at one time he came, the killer was, he came in with these outfit on, looked like pajamas, and they looked like they were made from the Holiday Inn bedspread and curtains.
right,
So I said, hey, dude, did you get that from Holiday Inn, having made into an outfit? He goes, no, man, I had this custom made. That was the end. That's the last time I saw her.
right.
So then I said, that's all right. I just got my Guitar Zeus deal. I'm gonna concentrate on that, which I did.
Mm,
That's sold all around the world. My Guitar Zeus record sold all around the world except
mm,
America. And
yeah.
then I got volume 2. I was in Japan then with this group called Pearl that me and Tony played with in Japan. And we got a gold record with a gold Japan record, not just the ones that you sell. These you actually have to make 150, 200,000 sales. Like a platinum record in Japan, but for us is like 100,000. This is more than that. And we went over, me and Tony and a Japanese woman singer and a Japanese guitar player. And we did half Japanese, half English record. And we played for, 5,000 people in Tokyo, 5,000 people all over. You're on TV shows with 50 million people and you pull up in a bullet train with videos on the big screen. Yeah, it's huge. So I was doing
Yeah.
that. I was doing Guitar Zeus. And then at the end of all that, I did the Charbog and the piece. I spent the whole 90s there. I had two kids at home. I'd be there for 3 months and come home for 2 months and then go back. It was
They know
quite,
they know how to
and
rock over there, don't they?
hey, yeah, they
They
killed.
love
And
their rock.
then, yeah, and what happened is while I was there in the 90s, I started realizing it was changing because there used to be all American groups and English groups. And then they started manufacturing their own groups. They had a group called the Bees that would do stadiums over there,
Mm,
maybe two times in Tokyo. We were
mm,
friends with them, and then like guys like Billy Sheehan and you know, Bumblefoot and different people would play with
mm,
them. You know,
mm.
there was two guys, and they would put the rest of the band together with big names from international names. You know,
Yeah,
good friends. But
absolutely. So what's happening for you over the next 12 months? What's in in the future for you?
Cactus,
Yes,
we didn't even talk about the album, but that Cactus album, which is doing great, and you got to look at that video. You
I
got my
do.
email now. Look at the video and
I
send back the
will.
reaction.
I think we should have a part two. I've only
Well, let's
scratched
set it up. Set it up.
I'll set it up. We've only scratched the surface. So,
Yeah, set it up.
will you do some shows on the road with Cactus too?
Yeah, we're booking some now. We got some Vanilla Fudge shows booked already, and we
Yeah,
have rock shows booked. And that guy that called the managers is going to get a lot more shows booked. You know,
yeah.
because
Abs-
like you look at Rod the show, you look the rest of that video. You look at this some live stuff on there. It's freaking great. Women love the show. Women
abs-
love the show, older and younger. It's
Absolutely.
just like a Rod thing in miniature. You know.
Yeah.
And it's not arenas, but it's theaters. You know,
And what could we do to get you down under? It's been a long time. We did talk
I
about this
can't
pre to
I
the
can't
show.
travel. I can't travel there for health reasons
Right.
because I went to when I did so many things. I did drum wars with my brother. We went to Europe. On the very last show was in the Canary Islands. We did 20 shows. I had nosebleeds over the years. I had the worst nosebleed I've ever had in the Canary Islands, and I tried to get home. When I got home, keep them out. I'm almost done. When I got home, it took me a week to get home. I was dropped off on the plane at the Azores. Okay. And long story short, it took me a week to get home. I went back to Paris, had medical airlifts back to home. When I took the gauze out of my mouth, out of my nose, I had sepsis. I said, one more day, I would have been dead. So for me, it's not worth it to do any flying like that.
I
My
understand.
senior Rod says, man, if you can come with me he does theaters like 500 seats. If you come to Australia, we'd be doing 1,000, 1,500 seats with you. I said, I can't
Mm,
do it. I can't go. I mean,
understand.
I had offers to go to Japan, to South America, to Europe. I just can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to. I like living, you know. I like
Yeah.
playing. I like what I'm doing. And it's sad that I can't come.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do some sort of like pay-per-views, uh,
Yeah.
to it.
Absolutely.
It's not the same, but that's all I could do. I loved Australia, man. I loved Australia. We would land in Perth and we'd stay there for 5 days. We'd rehearse at the arena and then do
Mm,
3 days of shows. And then we'd go over it. We'd fly with our own plane over to Sydney, and we go to Brisbane and we go to Auckland, not Auckland. What's the one in the middle? What's the big
Alice,
city in the north middle?
North Middle.
Yeah, in the
There's
north.
Brisbane, Sydney, Alice Springs. I don't know. Melbourne, Adelaide,
Melbourne, Adelaide,
Melbourne. Yeah.
Adelaide. We did all those
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
all around the outside. Nobody went to the middle.
Because there's nothing there
There's
but a rock.
nothing there. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But
Yeah.
we had such a good time. I mean, there's the audiences were amazing. And I
Mm,
went there and did clinics. I had clinics. I had 2,000 people in clinics. And
mm.
in the middle, and I went to New Zealand, had 1,000 people. I went to Tokyo. I did a whole tour of New Zealand, Australia, up the Pacific Rim to
Mm.
to Singapore and up to Japan. It was amazing. To
Yeah.
thousands of people in clinics. And at the time, nobody did that. And I
Yeah.
did the very first clinic back in 1971, which was Ludwig was trying to get me to do clinics for a long, long time. And then finally, I wrote a drum book, an instructional drum book. And Ludwig said, "You got the drum book. You got to do clinics to support it. Like when you do records, you go out on tour to support the records. You do that." I said, "No, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that." I was like standoff. I didn't really want to do it. They tried to do it all through my Vanilla Fudge career. And when I was in Cactus, I did it. And the first one I did was in big stores called Sam Ash over here. They're very big.
Mm.
And it was the second Sam Ash store. We did it next door. They had underneath, it was like underneath a synagogue or something. It was a 800, 900 seat venue. And we did that and it was sold out. And I said, wow, this is fun. This is pretty cool. I didn't realize at the time I was the only rock musician that ever did a clinic, you know? And
Yeah.
then it
Well, I
went,
think you started
and
it off.
guess who was the second drummer who did clinics?
Cozy.
Yep.
Your
Unbelievable.
your doppelganger, the guy who chases you.
Yeah, so but now I love it. Now I do master classes and I do a thing called the
Mm.
diary show, where I have a video and it ends up with a book that it writes in the
Mm.
stories, like John Lennon eats lasagna, why is Prince in my bed, and things. Rod Stewart and Jeff Beck, and then I come in and I get the audience clap and I do a stick solo, and then I say, okay, there's the list. Who wants to be the first one to pick a story? Then they pick a story, and then I tell the story. You know,
I think that's great. It's
it's really
great.
fun. Really fun. So I do those. I do master classes. I play with the bands. And
Mm.
me and my wife have a house in St. Martin. We go there. That's the only place I go because it's only 2 hours flight to Miami where I have the surgeries. When I have these nosebleeds, I have to have surgery.
Mm.
Okay, so it's not just pack your nose. You have to, you go up your arteries. It goes back. It's horrible. It really
Mm.
fucked my career, but I'm fine. You know,
Yeah.
even though I miss you guys in Australia, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to come back anytime. But
Yeah. Mate,
so
it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I'd love to have you on the show again. So many stories. I barely scratched the surface, but
yeah, yeah.
I'll put all the links below.
Have you read my book?
No, I haven't, but I
Oh,
heard
you
it's
gotta go
good.
to Amazon.
It's a good read.
Pick it. My Life of Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll. It's a great read. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, and lots of
The
women.
stories I
Lot-
forgot now. What's
And
that?
lots of women too. I hear in that
Without a
book.
doubt. Without a doubt. I
All
won't
the
even tell you. And guess who wrote the intro?
who?
Guess. Take a guess.
Cozy Powell.
No, Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart. I thought it might have been Cozy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got cozy on the brain. All
All the best, mate. We'll have
right,
you back
mate.
on. Thanks.